Hello. It has been so long since I've talked to you guys. Like actually factually incorrect because I'm live, every 3 days of my life. But it is Tuesday and it's, I think, been exactly a week since I really vlogged anything. I'm Melissa, I write books. I feel like I forgot to mention that part, but I'm currently revising a book that I would like to be done with pretty soon, but I'm really not even close at all to being done. So it's the 10th of September and I would like to be done with this at the end of September so that I can start prepping a book in October. I'm currently on chapter 8 out of 39. Yikes. But here's the thing. It's hard to, I feel like that doesn't give you a true indication of how far I am because I think a lot of the revision points are in honestly this section that I'm coming up to. There's like a new scene that I've already written the scene, but I need to put it into the new, like edit through it and make sure it flows with what's already there. Really the tone of this whole next few chapters is changing quite a bit. And I've been thinking a lot about my, like the way that my characters experience this next section. Cause I think what like happens on the page is right. But specifically my male POV, there's something I want to shift with how he's experiencing it because I don't think I was really thinking about how he would take in all this information. That was super vague. This is a dual POV thriller with romantic elements. Part of what I'm doing in this revision is actually amping up the romance. What I'm trying to do, I don't know why I'm trying to do this because it's, to my knowledge at this moment in time, not really something that I'm seeing super often. There are things that are very similar to it. There are thrillers that are heavy romance. There are also thrillers that are funny. What I'm sort of trying to do is incorporate like rom-com tropes into thrillers. I don't know why, but that's the kind of book I want to read. And so I'm going to write it. And that's the best kind of thriller I think I can write. And so the element that I'm adding into this is fake dating, and it already is there, but I want to play into that a little bit more. And also the thing I'm shifting with my male POV is like before he was just kind of like going along with it because of a certain thing. And now I want him to be intentionally, not malicious, but like intentionally planning to betray someone. And he was not doing that before, but I think it really, really makes sense for him to be. So that is just, and a lot of that shift would come before the midpoint, because at the midpoint is where he would like stop doing that. So I saw this TikTok today that was about like an anti-hero and how the midpoint of the book is when they go from being like morally bad to morally like sort of bad to sort of good. Like that's where the anti-hero, so to say, is shifting into being more of a hero, if that's the arc. And he didn't have an anti-hero arc before, but I think it makes sense for him to have one. He's not like evil or bad or anything, but he's put in a position, and I think I made him really innocent in the first draft because that's how I prefer men in books to be, where they're like actually not doing anything bad. He's just like forced into the situation, but I want to make him a little bit more active in that he's choosing to do some bad things intentionally. And it's all for the same reason. Like he's choosing to do the bad things in this draft, where in the last draft, he just did them because of this threat, but the threat is still there. It's just some tonal things in his POV, and it's just taking a little bit longer, but I think it's good. It's like, it's really landing where I want it to at this point. And that's like the main challenge for this like opening section prior to the midpoint. And then there's obviously some other like random revision things I'm putting in. And then like the last act of the book is very different. Actually, none of the scenes are different. Well, one is, but there's just a lot more layers of a lot more people. So, but we're not even close to getting to that. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So I don't know how long this vlog is gonna go, probably until Friday or Thursday or Friday, because I'm also gone again this weekend, which is fine and good, but I just don't know when I'm gonna do this.
the darkness when I'm stumbling, and I don't know what to do. When it all feels overwhelming, I am never over you, and I don't know why I'm like this, why I never get enough. In the depths of all my drowning fears, I am covered in your love, and it's then that I'm reminded just how beautiful you are.
Hi, do you want to hear something psychotic about me? Psychotic is maybe not the right word, but okay. Have you heard this thing about the serial killer trait? I promise it's not just because I talk about serial killers a lot. And I don't even feel like I really talk about serial killers that much, okay? Apparently a serial killer trait is like something that you do that's really weird. So for example, if you sleep with your socks on, or if you open shit bags by like ripping them with, and not doing this, by doing this. But I think mine is that I don't use notebooks in order. When I get a notebook, I randomly open it to a random page and just use that. So it's all out of order. And this is a notebook I've had since college. Oh, the reason I'm telling you this is because I started brainstorming for a new book. In procrastination of writing, yes. Okay? But as I was flipping through, this is a time capsule of my life, and there's some things I need to highlight in here for you. The first section is like this really in-depth Keeper of the Lost Cities fan fiction, intermixed with like notes from classes in college and also like these checklists. But these checklists are so unhinged because they're from like a time in my life that was very distinct. Like, I remember I made this checklist as I was after an interview for the job that I ended up having for like 3 years. Like the to-do items on this checklist just like take me right back in time. It's like all this stuff about the staff meeting for the DJ company I worked for and like the short film I was working on. Like it's such a time capsule. A lot of to-do lists, a lot of like wedding DJ, like mapping out stuff, which is so on brand. And I'm just flipping through and it's just like a variety of things and it jumps years all the time because I don't do anything in order. And then there's like all these notes for Keeper of the Lost Cities podcast I was gonna do. Don't ask. And then there'll be just like 2 sentences of a poem or something. And like I was flipping through and I saw this poem that I wrote and I was like, so we're gonna read it together. Let's just all take a moment to breathe and listen to this poem. It's this long. I'll put some beautiful music to it. Okay, ready? There are a lot of things I'm supposed to be. A lot of things I claim to be and believe, but most of the time I am a bystander. Not in the bad, I could have stopped a murder way, but in a softer, somehow scarier way. I stand by as the emails in my inbox climb to exorbitant heights. I stand by as deadlines I set for myself slip by with the rising sun and the next episode of Grey's Anatomy. I stand by as those around me form relationships while mine run dry. I stand by, my mind knowing the next steps, but my will taking the back seat. Hello? Are you well? I have no idea when I wrote this, but it's so true. The moral of the story is that these notebooks are so out of order and chaotic and crazy, but I did start brainstorming a book to start writing in November. So also I have been going to coffee shops every hour of my life again, which is fine. I'm currently on chapter 9. My goal is to get through 2 chapters a day, and so I still need to do chapter 10 and also a good part of chapter 9. Honestly, but I don't want to push it though because I want to really get this part of the book right. And all of the book right, frankly. So I don't know. It's always this balance of like, Am I not doing it because I need to give it more time? Or am I just like avoiding it, you know? So, hi everyone. Just listened to Journey to the Past from Anastasia, and I'm eating a chocolate bar, and I got a notification that 2 years ago today, I sent my first ever query. So instead of writing the chapter I need to, this is we're gonna send a query. It has gotten to the point where I would rather send a query than write this darn book. R.I.P. to me. The worst decision fatigue of my life. Nobody tells you about the decision fatigue. Well, they all do. One second. Here's the thing about learning that nobody tells you. Here's why I'm against learning. I'm not actually obviously I'm not against learning, but here's what they don't tell you about getting better at something, specifically writing, is that now I know too many things that it's stopping me from doing it. I know about genre expectation, and I know about word count lengths for chapters, and I know about tropes for certain genres, and I know that you can break the rules if you know the rules and you're doing it intentionally, and I know that no book is original, but also you should write something genre bending, and I know too many things. So the problem I'm having right now is the core of it is with like, what is the book? I've spoken about this 500 million times since starting to write this book. Might be an exaggeration, but how it is a thriller, but I have elements of rom-coms in it. So there's like fake dating elements and tropes in it. But the problem is, which is maybe why people don't do this very often, is that there's like a tonal problem right now, where I'm kind of trying to make it feel fun. I'm doing that, but at the same time, I'm trying to like put all these dark pieces in place. And I keep like getting caught in between these things. And maybe this is the problem with trying to do all of this at the same time, but I still think I like this better than how I've done revision in the past. But anyway, like I need to introduce a certain character. I've been trying to figure out where to introduce her. She's one of those characters where like you don't ever like she's not really important until the end, but she's important all the time, but she is not important in the characters' lives until the second half of the book. But she needs to be like in your mind at the beginning of the book. So I've been like, as I've been revising through, I didn't have a specific place that really made sense initially to put this character in. And I think I actually have it figured out now, but like, so I'm trying to figure that out, but I'm also trying to bring the comedic tone into it, but it's not like haha joke funny. It's more just like tonally like fun, but it's not fun. Like I don't know if I even want it to be fun. I'm kind of spiraling always about this. I just like don't think about it most of the time, but right now I'm being like faced with it because this is the time where I have to decide and I have to implement the changes. I also am trying to figure out what genre I'm writing, and I know that it's romantic suspense, but the problem is it's not, because if you type romantic suspense into Amazon or Kindle Unlimited, you are getting shirtless men, other things of that variety, which is fine. but that's not what I'm writing. And so it's not, I don't think romantic suspense is the right word for it, because it will not meet those genre expectations that romantic suspense readers have. I think it more falls in line with things like The Blonde Identity by Ally Carter, and maybe even Finlay Donovan is Killing It, but those are a little bit more mystery heavy than mine is. But that's okay. I think that that's like the tone I want, but those ones are like very like slapstick funny, and that's not the kind of comedy I want to be in it. I want it to be more like, not even situationally funny, but just like almost witty, like the banter between, in the way that in a rom-com, the banter between the characters is what's funny. The situation that they're in and how they navigate it, that's what's funny. And sometimes, and it's not like we're just like popping jokes back and forth, you know? But then at the same time, like both of these characters have a lot of trauma and it's all very present, like bad things are happening actively in their lives that would affect them very bad. So it's not like they can be like cracking, but they could. I read a lot of romance and rom-coms, and like a lot of times the characters are struggling with some like immense personal struggle. Like oftentimes it's like grief or like a parent relationship. Like there's usually something, and they still have like a funny banter, and like that's the feeling I want. But it's not like grief that they're battling with. It's like this criminal group that is after them. Like if you've ever seen Doctor Who, it always comes back to Doctor Who, everyone. Like that is what I want it to feel like. Emotional, and specifically like seasons 2 through 7 of Doctor Who, like with David Tennant and Matt Smith. That's what I want this book to feel like. And the stories that I love the most are ones that have like real stakes and real tension and real danger, but also you laugh, and also there's like a really, like the relationship and the emotion takes the center stage. Like that's why you love it so much, but you don't have to sacrifice the mystery and the thriller part of it. Which maybe adventure is the right word, but it's not like we're not like pirates. I would say that the danger and the thriller element of it goes deeper than it, well, I don't know, sometimes Doctor Who gets dark. So you might be noticing what my dilemma is like, actually, I don't think it's gonna, like I already kind of have an idea of how I'm gonna pitch it. The problem is, how do I actually make it feel like that? And so the revision I'm trying to do is trying to make it feel like that, where it's, you're laughing, not like around once a page, there's some turn of phrase or some witty banter, like there's something, maybe not once a page, but like once a chapter, because there's some chapters where it's like, this is just bad, you know, dark times, but you don't go too many chapters without like smiling or laughing. But I don't know if that's even true. Like, I don't know if there's anything funny even happening. That's sort of what I'm trying to add in, but it feels really disingenuous to like put something funny next to something really horrible and dark and dramatic. It's also very much like Castle. I've comped this book to Castle, the TV show, before, which is like a crime procedural. So like that's also like funnier crime procedurals that are still in the serious like genre. So not like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but something like Castle, or I think The Rookie, which is the same guy, but like The Rookie, or what is that other one? Sometimes Criminal Minds, but Criminal Minds is a journey always. 911, like where there are really dark and so it is a challenge to write something like that, and I just don't know if I'm doing the right thing, and I don't know if I'm focusing on the right thing. And then also all my chapters are 3,500 words, but it's also dual POV. So then I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to split this chapter in half, because then we have 2 chapters with the same POV in a row. But I know that that doesn't really matter, because a lot of people do that, but it's like kind of expected that it should be sort of equal on both sides. So then I'm like, okay, do I do 2 chapters with each side? Because it's not like I can just like move the chapters around, because a lot of the chapters are happening in the same scene. So it's like you're going back and forth, but they're in the same place talking to each other. And so I can't just like break it up, because it wouldn't make sense chronologically. So then there's also that part of it. And then I also know all these things about dialogue tags and all these things about description. And also I know my interiority, like there's this whole section, there's a lot more interiority that's needed. And so that's where I'm trying to like add in like, why are they doing what they're doing, but also make it sort of funny and cute, you know, because it's like, we're supposed to feel that way. And then I'm like, should I even do that? Because Is that even marketable? But I also know I shouldn't focus on marketability because you should just write a good book first, right? But I'm also querying a book. And also I know I shouldn't even be thinking about things. I should just write the book of my heart. Well, I get, this is part of it, okay? This is part of it. I think that is really overwhelming me. Like I have cleaned this house. That is how much I am avoiding it. I've cleaned cleaned the kitchen. I've wiped down the countertops. I've mowed the lawn and done the laundry before it needed to be done. That is how much I'm avoiding it. I sent a query letter. You were all there for that instead of doing that. So I think I'm just really overwhelmed with how, like, am I doing the right thing? But I just need to remind myself that, like, this isn't the last time I'm gonna be in this book. Like, there is time to change that. And I do feel it getting better, but it's just this balancing act that I can't quite figure out. Like, my gut is telling me that I want it to feel that way. Like, I don't want it to be super dark because thrillers are getting darker, which is fine. That's like, every genre is dealing with saturation because we're just so many years into publishing now, especially with the rise of indie publishing. Like, every genre is struggling with saturation. And so every author and every agent and publishing is like trying to figure out how to adapt it in a new way so that, like, there's new fresh things happening, right? So in fantasy, it's romantasy, and then we're switching up the POV, and like there's just all this stuff happening in fantasy that you could think of with that. We're kind of going back to dystopian and like sci-fi, and I think that's awesome actually. But and so thrillers, the way that thrillers have been adapting is that they're getting darker. Like, they're like, what if we went even deeper and darker and twistier and grosser? And I just have no desire to write like something really sickening. Like, I don't want to write gore, and I don't really want to write horror, definitely not. I'm just not interested in that. And I don't want to write like a lot of these books are turning into incest and what's the word that people use to not say this word? Getting really dark, and that's not anything I want to like spend hours and hours and hours writing. Like, my books have elements of dark themes in them, but not something that is gonna make me like just feel gross writing or living with that idea in my head, you know? And I know that those books are not just like gore for gore's sake. Some of them I think are, but like, I know that there's goodness and meaning in that, but it's not something I want to be spending all this time in my head. So the other way that thrillers are going is like Finlay Donovan is killing it, and all of these thrillers with cartoon covers. But I read those and I'm like, I don't know if this is exactly what I want. The stakes often feel really disconnected from the characters, and it seems too lighthearted that it's weird, and it's not super like romance. I don't know. But I also know, like, I'm not the only person writing. Like, I'm not under the misconception that I'm the only person doing this. Like, I think there's probably definitely books out there that feel like this. But anyway, that's where I'm at. It is going fine. It's just like, that is just creeping up in my mind of like all these questions all the time. So it's hard to actually do the work because I'm like, am I doing the right thing? Am I wasting my time? You know? Here's my TED Talk for the week. I'm gonna go on a walk, not to procrastinate, and then I'm going to dive in to writing. I will. Do you hear me? I will.